It was July 1982. Morning. A typical fog hung over the Green River. The sky was gray and overcast, the air damp and cool. On the narrow Peck Bridge near Kent, Washington, a gravel truck eased to a crawl. The driver, Robert Ainsworth, was headed toward Seattle. You weren't supposed to stop here, but the road was empty and he'd been behind the wheel for hours. His knees were stiff. Robert killed the engine, climbed down, and stretched his back. He walked to the rail and leaned on the metal. Below, the river moved slowly, green, thick with weeds. It looked ordinary, the way he'd seen it dozens of times. But this time something in the water moved. A pale blotch drifted by the shore, small and blurred in the fog. At first he thought, bag, or a scrap of cloth. He squinted. The object rocked on the surface and turned lazily. Then it rolled just enough for the sun to hit it. Robert saw a face. It was a body. His hands clamped the railing by reflex. For several seconds he couldn't even move. Then he lurched back, ran to the cab, and grabbed the radio. In those years every long-haul driver had a CB. "Dispatcher, this is Ainsworth," his voice shook. "On Peck Bridge, there's a body in the water? Send someone." The call hit the King County Sheriff's Department at 7:51 a.m. 15 minutes later. 2 patrol cars were at the bridge. Then the medical examiner's unit. Then the crime scene van. A stretch of ordinary roadway was now a crime scene. Police blocked traffic. Drivers turned around. Deputy Dave Reichert stepped from one of the cars. He'd been in the department a few years, but he hadn't seen this. An officer silently gestured over the rail. In the water, near brush and weeds, a young woman's body floated. Her face was pale. Her hair, dark and soaked, spread around her. Her wrists were bound. Minutes later a dive team arrived. The river was shallow but murky, green slurry of weeds and silt. 2 divers slipped in and slowly guided the body to shore. On the gravel, they lifted her out, careful and deliberate. When they placed her on the stretcher, you could hear the water draining from her hair. She was young. About 20. No identification. Rope marks on the wrists and neck. Bruising on the body. Whoever tied her had done it calmly, without hurry. Reichert studied the knot. It was too neat, too even. You don't make that in a panic. The ME checked for a pulse, formality. She'd been gone for a while. Notebooks filled with the first details. The photographer's old Nikon snapped, wrist marks, hair, current direction, arrival times. At 9 a.m. the body went to the morgue. Evidence went into a brown paper bag, rope, hair, photos, the short preliminary report. The city had no idea yet. No press. Kent moved through an ordinary day. On the bridge, yellow tape already read, "Sheriff's Line do not cross." The medical examiner confirmed it formally, female, roughly 20, death by strangulation. Estimated time of death, under 48 hours. Reichert stood in the hallway and stared at nothing. He'd seen dozens of cases, crashes, fights, routine crimes. This felt different. The cold control behind it didn't read like an accident. Later that day, in a cramped working office, there was a short meeting. Command decided to hold off on the press. One body by a river wasn't a reason to spark panic. "We'll handle it quietly," the captain said. In Reichert's gut, the feeling had already turned. This wasn't just one crime. That evening he drove home the same route, past the bridge. The tape fluttered in the wind. The river looked calm again, as if nothing had happened. He didn't know yet, if someone had done this with such cold, careful hands, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The sheriff's office was quiet. The air was heavy, smoke-stained. The hallway smelled like old coffee and paper. Somewhere a typewriter clacked. Detectives moved quickly, not wasting words. On Dave Reichert's desk lay a thin folder. Inside, the morning incident report and several bridge photos. The young woman's body, bound wrists, marks on her neck. No name. About 25 years old. No documents, no sticky details to grab. ID? An investigator asked. Nothing, Reichert said, short. Someone in the corner guessed, maybe she worked the highway. People said that often back then. Police knew women living near Highway 99 weren't always reported missing right away. The line sounded casual, but it hung heavy. In the morgue it was cool and smelled of formalin. The metal doors creaked shut. The body lay on the table. The water had drained from her hair. A clear ligature groove ringed her neck. The wrist knot was tight. The ME spoke evenly. Everything was done carefully. Cause of death, strangulation. No mess. No panic. After lunch Reichert went back to Peck Bridge. Traffic was open again, but the tape still hung by the shoulder. Brush stirred in the wind, the river moved steady. The normalcy was irritating. "Something still bugging you?" a sergeant asked. "Yeah. This isn't random. Someone did this calmly. Knew where to put her." Toward evening there was another meeting. Captain, the ME, 2 detectives. No map spread out. The captain kept it dry. No press yet. We need time. A hydrologist later confirmed it, the body could have drifted several miles from where it entered the water. The crime scene was likely upstream. The autopsy wrapped. Findings: death by strangulation, professional knotting. Fibers collected for analysis. Back at the office, after everyone left, Reichert reread the reports. 15 minutes from the call to patrol arrival. A clean scene. 0 witnesses. No signs of a struggle nearby. The classic start to cases that drag. He looked at the list of missing women he kept on his desk. An unpleasant thought crept in: cases like this don't break on step 1. To get answers, you wait. The horrors to come didn't yet occur to anyone. The river that had given up one victim at dawn was quiet. It wouldn't stay quiet for long. Only 4 days passed since that morning at Peck Bridge. Sunday in Kent was quiet, Highway 99 nearly empty. At 9:12 a.m., another call hit the sheriff's line. A local fisherman reported a body in the water 2 miles downstream. Female. Patrol arrived fast. This time everything moved tight, no delay. The bank was cordoned off, access shut. Divers were in the water within 20 minutes. The river was shallow, the current slow, the body close to the surface. Once they got it out, the conclusion was immediate: not a coincidence. The woman was bound exactly like the first. Hands pulled behind her. Strangulation groove on the neck. The same pallor, the same wet, dark hair tangled in weeds. Dave Reichert got there among the first. The situation was simple: either the same killer or 2 identical murders in the same area within a week. No one seriously entertained the second option. Time of death, he asked. About 2 days, the ME answered, eyes fixed. Same pattern. Strangulation. No documents this time either. No witnesses. Same current, same river. While the medical examiner worked the bank, search teams walked the shoreline. From the find to the bridge, about 3 miles. That meant one thing: the killer didn't dump bodies at random. He knew the river. He knew how it would carry. He knew they'd turn up within a zone he understood. After noon the woman went to the morgue. Same knots. Same technique. A complete match to the prior case. The squad room went quiet. Not working quiet, heavy quiet. Everyone understood something serious had begun. This wasn't a body by the river. This was the start of a series. That evening there was another meeting. In the room, the captain, Reichert, several senior detectives, the county prosecutor, and the ME. 2 photos on the wall, 2 faces. 2 women, 2 stories, 1 handwriting. The captain didn't waste words. If this is a series, we're short on time. We need the dump zone. Or we catch him before number 3, the prosecutor said. A river map stretched across the table. From upstream to Peck Bridge, dozens of possible points, fields, industrial strips, tree lines. Plenty of places to leave a body without a witness. And almost nowhere with cameras or guards. Early 80s weren't the age of surveillance. He doesn't just know the river, Reichert said quietly. He's comfortable here. Like it's home. While the ops team planned the search grid, the autopsy finished. Predictable conclusion: strangulation, hands tied behind, no additional trauma. Similar knots, same method on both. No sexual assault evidence, no injections or poisons. The killer was fast and silent. Cops don't like the word serial until they have to use it. No one said it aloud, not because they doubted, but because they already knew. And that was what frightened them. Reichert drove along the bank that evening. No cameras, no guards, no lights in the industrial zone. Old warehouses, loading pads, empty lots. If you wanted to put a body in the water unseen, this was perfect. An old dock stood on the shore, wood boards, wet mud. He stopped, looked around. No one knew it then, but this was where a name would first form in the city and later echo worldwide: Green River Killer. Late that night he sat before the map. The river was a green ribbon on white paper. 2 red marks, 2 bodies, just over 3 miles apart. He'd seen dozens of cases, but this felt different. Cold, systematic evil, nothing else fit. The captain came in quietly. We don't even have a face yet, Reichert said. But I already know he won't vanish tomorrow. Let's keep that as a hypothesis, the captain said. It wasn't a hypothesis. It was a warning of something large and ugly. The quiet river by the city had become a stage. Everyone at the office felt it. The real nightmare isn't finding a body. The real nightmare is realizing it won't be the last. 2 weeks after the first body, the phone at the sheriff's office rang nearly every day. Not dispatcher notes now, families. Sisters, mothers, sometimes friends. Almost all said the same thing: a young woman is missing. Last seen somewhere along the highway. Yes, the same highway already too familiar to the sheriff. Most were women working the shoulders, common then. Motels, cheap rooms, no fixed address. That's why police didn't move fast, no one knew where to start. Now it was different. After 2 bodies, every new disappearance hit differently. Reichert sat listening to another mother who hadn't heard from her daughter for 3 days. Her voice shook, but there was no hysteria. She felt something was wrong. Mothers often do. Each call got logged on the board: name, age, date, last seen, last location. Within a week the board was nearly all red pins. The press smelled a story. First short local items. Then radio. Seattle started whispering, troubling pattern. Officially, police confirmed nothing, but reporters knew where to knock. Pressure rose. Reichert saw it on faces. Morning meetings got shorter, tone harder. No more, maybe a coincidence. In early August a woman in her 40s came in with a worn photo of her daughter. Missing a week. Last seen near a highway motel. Are you looking for her? The mother asked. Yes, Reichert said. We're looking for all of them. She stared straight at him, the look of someone who doesn't believe words but wants desperately to. They hadn't found a 3rd body yet, but the number of disappearances told the detectives it was a matter of time. The killer hadn't gone anywhere. He was confident. He wasn't hiding. He was finishing what he'd started. The task room filled with people sleeping on cots. The river map now had rings of colored pins, disappearances, possible dump points, areas with the most calls. Photos of the missing went on the walls. Not just the found ones. Names, faces, dates. The lives were all different, but they shared one thing: they vanished in the same territory. By mid-August the sheriff's office formed a 10-person detail working this case only. No formal name yet, but internal paperwork started calling it the Green River case. Every day at 7 they met in their workroom. The captain opened without ceremony: number of new reports, the day's search coordinates, the ME's briefings. If we don't get ahead of him, the captain said one morning, this river turns into a morgue. The investigation was hard for another reason: many of the missing had no stable address, no papers, no steady contacts. Some weren't officially reported at all, no one to file. Reports labeled them unknown, unidentified, last contact unknown. These are the victims serial killers choose most, people not searched for immediately. On the evening of August 18th, Reichert stood at the board. The red dots had merged into smears. He didn't know how many were linked and how many weren't. He listened to his gut, and what it said was frightening. The duty officer opened the door. Another report. Female, 21. Last seen 2 days ago on the highway. Reichert nodded. Said nothing. Somewhere nearby was a man who worked quietly, carefully, coldly. And the river hadn't said its last word. Late summer stayed warm, normal for Washington state. For the detectives there were no calm days left. Mornings often began with, another body. Another missing. Not a handful of officers now, an entire team worked the Green River banks. Patrol, divers, CSI, the ME. The water returned what it was given. Each body was evidence, and a slap to a society that had seen and heard nothing. On the morning of August 25th, 2 teenagers in a small boat spotted a woman's body near a sandy bank. 3 hours later, another body a kilometer downstream. Both female. Again, no deviation in method, no change in execution. After that, even the most cautious stopped saying, coincidence. The word everyone avoided now hung in the air: serial killer. They set up a field command post by the river: old tent, folding tables, thermoses, maps, markers, photos. Detectives stayed for days. Reichert slept 3 hours at a time. Shifts weren't counted anymore, only bodies. Within the next week, 3 more victims were found in and near the water. 5 bodies in short order. All young women, all last seen around Highway 99. All the same handwriting. It was the beginning of what would later be called one of the largest manhunts for a serial killer in U.S. history. Local news roared. Killer of the Green River, the headlines blared. Police tried to hold details back, but when bodies arrive one after another, you can't hide it. Reporters showed at bridges faster than patrol cars. In stores and cafes people whispered. Truckers spoke of the highway hunter. Parents talked about the bad river. Workers talked about the walk home in the dark. Fear took hold. It was quiet, cold, like the water carrying the bodies. Police split the river into sectors. Teams worked each one. They walked the banks, searching for anything: tire tracks, torn fabric, stray fibers. Nothing. The killer worked clean. He put bodies into the water without leaving a readable print on bank or path. He didn't panic. That was the worst of it. While the river search went on, another team worked the office. They checked every disappearance in King County: names, dates, last locations, cars, acquaintances. The list grew daily. The photo board ran out of space. On August 29, the first official press conference. At the mics, the captain, Reichert, the prosecutor. The hallway was jammed with press. Everyone waited for confirmation. "We are actively investigating a series of homicides," the captain said. "We have confirmed links between the crimes. We cannot share all details, but we ask residents to be vigilant." For the first time, series and homicides were said on the record. The city held its breath. That night, after the presser, Reichert stood at the bridge again. No cars. Quiet. He watched the dark water and felt that somewhere nearby was a man calmly doing his work as if no one could see. Worst of all, he was probably right. "He won't stop," Reichert said to himself. The water moved as always, as if nothing had happened. It had already carried a sixth victim. And it was far from the last. Early September 1982. In the King County Sheriff's headquarters, a big map hung on the wall. Dozens of red pins traced the Green River. Missing lists beside it. Reichert's desk buried in reports, more by the hour. The captain stared at the map like he could read a face in it. "These aren't isolated," he thought. "This is a battlefield." On September 2nd, the order created a special task force. 40 people joined, some pulled from other units. Everyone understood, this was the heaviest case they'd ever see. They set up the task force in an old building near the river, closer to the center of the search. No ceremony. Plain desks, old phones, stacks of maps. Over the photo wall, a yellow sign in marker, Green River Task Force. The hunt was official now. Days settled into a rigid rhythm. Morning, short briefing, new missing, new finds, fresh grid squares. At 9, teams spread along the river, tree lines, empty lots, old docks, bypass roads. Evening, reports, analysis, reset. Not one or two cruisers now, lines of them along the bank. Divers by sector. Someone shooting photos, someone bagging evidence. Every scrap, cloth, hair, print, into the database. At one morning briefing, Reichert laid down a new map. Not just points, flow trajectories. "Look," he said. "All recoveries surface within this zone. That's not chance. He's working upstream, between these points. So he returns there each time?" a detective asked. "Yes," Reichert nodded. "And he does it confidently." That became strategy. If he consistently used a zone, he either lived nearby or knew it intimately. Teams got the order to sweep upstream banks, again, but this time with maximum precision. Parallel to that, the pattern analysis began. Analysts cross-stitched the missing lists, last routes, time of day, weather, even vehicle models last seen near them. A clear pattern emerged. Most disappearances happened between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m., all within a few miles along Highway 99. "He isn't just hunting," Reichert said at a meeting. "He knows when he can't be seen." The city began to choke on tension. Green River coverage hit every channel. Police took dozens of calls daily, real, frantic, bogus. "I saw a white truck. My neighbor's acting weird. He was in a bar last night." Detectives had to check everything. 90% noise, but buried inside could be the one that mattered. The night of September 7th, another body was found. A woman in shallow water, tangled in weeds. Same method. Same cold precision. No usable evidence. Eighth victim in a month and a half. Reichert stood on the bank. Evidence bags rustled, the ME measured in silence. "He's not rushing," he said softly. "He's in control." On September 10th, the task force ran the first mass walk-along on the highway. Patrol spoke with everyone: drivers, sex workers, motel staff. Any detail, car descriptions, odd clients, strange conversations. One image kept repeating: an unknown man in a dark pickup. Some said he looked normal. Others, too quiet. Nothing concrete. But the description reappeared again and again. That evening, in the task room, Reichert sat silent. Reports on the table. His eyes on the board, where the pins multiplied. "He likes that we can't see him," he told a colleague. "And he doesn't plan to stop." A freight train rattled outside. The radio hummed. In his head, only the case. If they didn't set the rules now, the killer would. Then it wouldn't be an investigation, it would be chasing a shadow. Fear bled into the city. Sex workers avoided the highway. Cabs didn't stop in those zones. People feared the dark shoulders where women had stood with cigarettes just weeks earlier. The hunt wasn't just the police anymore. The city hunted its own fear. The river kept moving, the same as always. It didn't register past, present, or future. By late September, there was no wall space left. Photos of missing women hung in rows like a chain. Most were young, 18, 19, 21. Faces stared from yellowing Polaroids with the same mix of fatigue and hope. Short hair on some, bright lipstick on others, and on a few, just tired eyes. These were women people rarely spoke about. The ones most preferred not to see. The ones who, when they vanished, often had no one to file a report. Many worked along Highway 99. They lived day to day, no stable housing. Some fled abuse at home. Some saw the strip as a way to make quick money and disappear. Police knew it. The killer did too. He's choosing those who won't be expected home, Reichert said at the morning briefing. If no one files, he buys time. No one argued. Everyone knew. They divided the board by color. Red, identified bodies. Blue, active missing with formal reports. Gray, those no one had officially reported. The gray markers were the most. These were women other sex workers, clients, or patrols had seen, and after they vanished, no report. No family, no friends, no papers. Just a tiny line in a patrol log, last seen near a motel. That was the killer's strength. He struck the weakest point. The task force made a new rule: even the smallest mention of a woman disappearing near the highway got logged as potentially connected. Detectives talked to sex workers, bar owners, drivers who ran the road nightly. Many didn't want to talk. Some feared the police. Some feared the hunter. Rumors spread: he drives a pickup. He doesn't yell. He doesn't look scary. That was the worst of it: he didn't look like a monster. One evening a woman in her 30s walked into the station. Thin, bruised under the eyes. Not missing, escaped. She sat across from Reichert and was silent almost 5 minutes. Then, I think I was in his truck. He picked her up off the shoulder. Calm, almost polite. Gray pickup. Clean. Tidy. Nothing extra in the cab. When she felt the danger, she jumped out at speed. The doctors later told her she was lucky to be alive. She was the first to get away. Her words became a key. He doesn't get rattled, she said. He talks calmly. Doesn't yell. He just drives. It matched the analyst's early profile, an effect-flat hunter operating methodically. He didn't beat or taunt. He took and ended lives with the same coldness one uses to close a door. They posted the first rough bolo, white male, about 30 to 40, driver of a gray pickup. A silhouette, but finally a shape. From then on, patrols were instructed to stop every pickup that pulled to the shoulder after dark. It wouldn't solve the problem, but it gave them a chance. Bodies kept appearing. 12th, 13th, 14th. Same knots. Same current. Same river. Every time, no witnesses. He's not just killing, Reichert said on a night shift by the river. He's erasing them from the map. True enough. Many didn't even have official names in the database. Just nicknames, passed along by other women, who themselves disappeared with time. The local press started calling them the girls nobody came for. It stung even hardened cops. They couldn't tell themselves, he's just killing. No. He had built a system around silence. Silence had become his strongest weapon. At the end of September, Reichert stared at the board again. Gray markers dominated. The invisible side of the crime. If we don't name them, he wins, he said to a colleague. The task room's quiet weighed more than any scream. The case wasn't just an investigation anymore. It was a fight against invisibility. And the killer knew it. Early October 1982. Fatigue lay over the Green River Task Force. Not physical, something in the air, in every pause between words, every short sigh. People worked 14-hour days, yet the killer stayed ahead. Each new body proved it. On Reichert's desk lay photos of 15 confirmed victims. Unofficially, more. All women. Young. Vanished in the same area. Found in or near the same river. The handwriting never changed. Cold, dry precision. He left no stray trace. No useful prints. Not one wasted move. That's when the FBI came in. The behavioral unit out of Quantico sent several agents, profilers. It wasn't just formality. In the 80s, profiling was a newer tool, used on especially tough cases. Green River fit. The first meeting was October 5th. In a smoke-stained office sat the captain, Reichert, analysts, and 2 FBI agents. They brought a thick black binder labeled Serial Homicide Behavioral Indicators. "We're not guessing who he is," an agent said. "We're describing how he operates." Photos of bodies on one wall. A map of Highway 99 and the river on another. The agent stepped up and traced shapes with a marker. "He thinks like a hunter," he said calmly. "He knows the terrain. He knows the river. He takes risks, but he isn't afraid. That means he's confident. Not impulsive. He's controlled." After a few hours, the profilers gave their read. Male, white, 30 to 40. Local. Knows the area well. Likely has steady employment that draws no attention. Has a vehicle, probably a pickup or van. Socially unremarkable, regular guy. Men like this don't shout or stand out, the agent said. They blend into the background. You've probably driven past him dozens of times. It wasn't a revelation to the cops, but it gave them what mattered, focus. Now they knew who, not just where. Patrols got concrete markers: dark pickup, middle-aged male, quiet, non-aggressive. The kind people forget. Meanwhile the city's fever rose. TV crews shot by the river. Reporters swarmed patrols. Residents demanded, catch this freak. The mess got worse, false tips doubled. Every pickup on the highway drew suspicion. Police stopped dozens daily. The real killer was nearby. Silent. By mid-October, the profilers added a second point: the killer returns to the crime area. Not necessarily to a body, but to a zone he controls. He watches. Classic predatory behavior. Police began covert surveillance at several key points along the strip. Evenings got long and cold. Detectives sat in cars, watching everyone who pulled over. Most were ordinary. But now the hunt ran both ways. Soon another body, number 17. This time not in water. Found in brush near an old road. Same bindings. Same handwriting. He's changing tactics, an FBI agent said, looking at the prints. But not habits. That means, he's not afraid. That night Reichert stayed in the task room. He stood at the map and thought not about the police, not about headlines, about the man. That man could be standing in a grocery line right now. Washing his truck. Smiling at neighbors. And no one would guess how many women he'd taken from this river. Not a movie monster. A regular man. And that made him dangerous. November 1982. A strange silence settled over the task force. Not calm, tight, like before a storm. In 2.5 months they'd gathered hundreds of pages of reports, dozens of maps, thousands of photos. Still, the killer stayed untouchable. Then a man surfaced who fit the profile almost perfectly. His name was Melvin Foster. A cab driver. Local. He often ran Highway 99. Many women working the shoulders knew or had seen him. He talked with them, gave rides, sometimes even slipped them cash. Some called him odd. Others, quiet. Exactly the kind of ordinary, unremarkable type profilers described. The report hit Reichert's desk after several anonymous calls. Someone had seen him with one of the missing the day before she vanished. A real lead, finally. Foster came in without a lawyer. Calm, neatly dressed. He spoke in an even tone. Yes, I know some of the girls, he said. Sometimes I helped. That isn't a crime, is it? He didn't get rattled, didn't contradict himself. That steadiness annoyed the room. People like that are often either truly innocent, or very good at control. You know what's happening to women on that strip? Reichert asked. I do. Everyone's talking about it, Foster said. But I have nothing to do with it. They put him under surveillance. Kept him on the hook. His pickup was registered in King County. He lived alone, near a key search zone. Too many overlaps to ignore. They tapped his phone. Patrols tailed him. At night, an unmarked sat on his block. Every move went into reports. When the press sniffed it out, they pounced. Police have a suspect, headlines shouted. Foster became a target. Calls flooded the office, we knew it was him. I saw him by the highway last week. Pressure peaked. The captain told the team. If it's him, we take him now. If not, we're wasting precious time. For 2 weeks, detectives hunted any scrap, trace, match, fiber, print. All they had were suspicions. Nothing at his home. Nothing in the pickup. No DNA, no fibers, no rope traces. The killer placed bodies with surgical precision. Foster was clean. With media heat and prosecutorial pressure rising, Reichert fumed at himself. They were knee-deep in a data swamp while the real killer likely rolled down the highway looking for another victim. Soon after, the task force officially took Foster off the priority list. No evidence. He was just an odd man who'd often been in the wrong place at the wrong time. For the team, a blow. For the killer, a gift. While they chased the wrong man, the real one kept working. That night Reichert sat alone in the task room. His head ached. On the board, 23 photos. 23 women he hadn't saved. We lost time, he thought. The thought pressed harder than any headline. The killer was a step ahead again. And the hunt went on. Winter 1982 to 1983. The Green River flowed as calmly as ever. Inside the task force, another current moved: fatigue. 3 months of intense hunting. Dozens of bodies. Hundreds of suspects checked. Hundreds of hours of wiretaps, tails, searches. And no clear face. After the Foster episode, the team felt like they were fighting a ghost. The body count topped 30. Many still unidentified. Some vanished without a single witness. The killer worked quietly and coldly, like he had no reason to hurry. Profilers said, he doesn't plan to stop. He's comfortable. His zone, along 99. His weapon, silence. The task room changed. At first it was a hive, movement, adrenaline, the sense a break was coming any day. Now it all felt heavier. People spoke briefly because there was often nothing new to say. Dark circles under eyes. The red pins on the map spread until they looked like a bloody web. Lines between points blurred. The main problem, too many leads, none sharp. We're drowning in our own information, Reichert said one day. He was right. In 3 months police interviewed more than 10,000 people, stopped over 20,000 cars, and checked hundreds of suspects. None of the threads led to the real killer. While they chased shadows, he simply went on living. Early 1983 the pace of murders slowed, but didn't stop. The killer changed rhythm. Bodies went into the water less often, sometimes he left them in wooded patches nearby. That made him even harder to track. He's tired, a young detective asked. No, Reichert said. He's getting smarter. In January, an FBI agent who'd worked the Zodiac case visited the task room. He listened and finally said a simple thing. You're not looking in the right place. He's not hiding in the brush. He lives among you. It hit like a hammer. Everyone knew it. Hearing it aloud still stung. The operation shifted. Large search parties gave way to targeted surveillance. Cameras at select spots, undercovers, special attention on pickups frequently pulling to the shoulders. It looked systematic. In reality, nothing moved. No arrest. No key break. The winter was cold. Windows papered over to block press lenses. The room smelled like coffee and old smoke. People stopped joking. No one believed in a quick grab anymore. Every detective carried the same thought. What if we never catch him? In March 1983 morale took another hit. The river returned 2 bodies in one day, the first in weeks. Both young women. Both strangled. Ice water to the face. He hadn't gone anywhere. He just waited. He's ahead of us again, Reichert said quietly. No one disagreed. A true dead end. Press pressure. City nerves. Police burnout. And the killer lived his ordinary life. Maybe that night he ate dinner at a small diner. Maybe he was already looking for the next. Mid-1990s. More than a decade since the first Green River body. The city learned to live with the story the way you live with autumn cold. You don't think about it every day, but you feel it inside. Most journalists moved on. The big papers mentioned it rarely. At the King County Sheriff's Office, the case never closed, not for a single day. It waited. By then the killer was linked to more than 40 victims, officially. Many bodies remained nameless. Some were never found. In folders lay thousands of pages of reports, interrogation tapes, crime scene photos, maps pricked with points. All of it sat in archives like a dark shadow waiting its time. The world changed. So did the investigation. In those years, forensic science made a true leap, DNA technology. What seemed like sci-fi in 1982 was now a practical tool. Samples that had sat for years in sealed bags could finally be examined at the molecular level. In 1997 the Sheriff's Office created a special lab group. The mission was simple and massive: pull every piece of Green River evidence from the archives and run modern DNA testing. Every item, rope fibers, hairs, cigarette butts, went for rework. It was slow. Old samples were degraded, waterlogged, dirt contaminated. But the tech was now good enough to pull out something. We're not looking with eyes anymore, a criminalist said. We're looking with molecules. Dave Reichert, by then a veteran, hadn't let go. Older face, rougher voice, same fire in his eyes as in '82. He'd lived through the years of silence, false trails, dead ends. Now he had a shot. If he's still alive, Reichert told a colleague, DNA will find him. Weekly lab memos rolled in. Most samples gave no matches. But slowly, DNA profiles emerged that they couldn't have gotten before. Those profiles matched across several victims. That meant one thing: the killer had left trace. And the trace had been waiting all those years. In 1999 the FBI and Washington State Police started a broad DNA sweep of men who'd lived along Highway 99 in the 80s. Hundreds of samples. Then thousands. Still, no direct hit yet. But the police now had an edge they'd never had: the killer wasn't invisible anymore. His molecules were on bodies. On ropes. In the air of the past. Local media returned. Will Green River Killer be found after 17 years? Headlines asked. People who hadn't spoken of it in years began to remember. The city's memory woke up. In the new building where the task force now worked, Everything looked different: computers, digital databases, files instead of bulging paper bags. The feeling was the same. This wasn't just a case. It was a duel, 2 decades long. In February 2001, a first potential DNA match pinged. A small signal. Nothing proven yet. But everyone felt something they hadn't in years: a real chance. Reichert, by then the sheriff, said it simply. "We don't let him slip a second time." After 20 years of quiet, the hunt was on again. This time, with new weapons. November 2001. A rainy, gray morning in Seattle, the kind where clouds hang so low it feels like you could touch them. On that morning at the King County Sheriff's Office, everything changed. Around 7 a.m., a lab message hit the desk. 3 DNA samples collected in the 80s, from 3 different victims, matched one man. His name, Gary Ridgway. Ridgway wasn't some phantom. He'd lived his whole life in King County. Worked painting trucks. Drove a pickup. Quiet. Unremarkable. Exactly what profilers had sketched when this story began. He'd even been questioned back in the mid-80s. No evidence, regular guy, and he went back to his life. Now he wasn't just a shadow. The special operations team rolled to his house in Renton at 8 a.m. No show, no sirens, no cameras. They didn't want to give him a chance to run or do something wild. Gary Ridgway stepped out in a blue work jacket and headed for his pickup. When he heard "police, hands up," he didn't resist. He just raised his hands. They took him quietly. No fight. In the interview room he sat straight, hands folded. No fear on his face, no anger. Just a kind of blank. He listened to the charges like they weren't about him. "We have DNA, Gary," an agent said. "It's your trace on 3 victims." Ridgway didn't argue. Didn't shout innocence. He just kept quiet. The silence was worse than yelling. The next weeks exploded across Washington state. TV trucks camped at the office. Headlines screamed, "Green River serial killer arrested." To many, the name sounded like a myth, a shadow that never had a body. Now he sat in a standard jail cell. The post-arrest work turned into a marathon. Prosecutors and detectives moved carefully. They needed concrete, unbreakable proof to end a case spanning 2 decades. DNA was the key thread. But day by day, more episodes surfaced. More bodies. More admissions. In December 2001, Ridgway started talking. Without emotion. Without theater. He gave names. Described places. Calm. Cold. Like a man who didn't see tragedy in any of it. "I wanted to get rid of those nobody needed," he said. Not a confession. A predator's logic. As his words matched old case materials, the interview room chilled in a way no winter could. Over the next months he admitted to more than 40 murders. Later, over 70. Some bodies were never found. It made him the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. In 2003, Gary Ridgway pled guilty to 48 murders and avoided the death penalty in exchange for cooperation. He agreed to lead police to remains. Court was as cold as he was. When families read their statements, he sat still, almost indifferent. No remorse in his eyes. No shame. When the judge read the sentence, 48 life terms without parole, the room fell silent. No applause. No shouting. Just silence. It was heavier than words. This story wasn't about a flashy win. It was a long, grinding fight with a man who killed for years. On sentencing day, Dave Reichert stood outside the courthouse. He'd carried this case for 21 years. When a reporter asked what he felt, he said, "This isn't the end. It's a period at the end of a sentence. But the family's pain doesn't go away." As of 2025, Gary Ridgway is in his 70s and still serving life at a Washington state prison. He never became a ghostly legend. He remained what he always was, a regular man who turned himself into a monster. And the city will wear the scar of his story forever.